Welcome to the Ageless Wisdom Podcast. My name is Shoshana Weinberg, and I am happy to share these recordings with you of interviews with masters who hold their unique wisdom as to what it means to be alive and what we can do to enhance our longevity. Hello, and welcome to the Ageless Wisdom Podcast. It's our time and privilege to connect, respect, and listen. As we acknowledge masters of wellness, we hear their stories, gems of wisdom, and their contributions to life, to themselves, to their families, community. My name is Shoshana, medicine woman, herbalist, spa visionary, and personal guide. My mission is to bridge wisdom of the earth and artistry of wellness. I'm dedicated to nurturing journeys towards holistic health. I am very, very excited to welcome today EagleSong. Sorry, hold on, let me.
EagleSong.
Here she is, but my computer is doing its funny thing. Hold on, here we go. EagleSong. Hello, welcome.
Hey.
EagleSong dances her mischief in the hedge, that luminous place between tended and wild. A lifelong gardener, she has designed, managed, and tended highly visibly kitchen gardens, farms, commercial gardens, herb gardens, and nurseries, and has trained in healing and therapeutic garden design. Oh my, I want to know so much about that. Often called a hawthorn whisperer. And you will see later, I'll share this picture of EagleSong with hawthorn. She's so beautiful, nestled, this picture, you're nestled into her. Sorry, often called a hawthorn whisperer. She has been researching hawthorns for over 30 years and has traveled to 6 countries pursuing an understanding of what they are good for. EagleSong is known for her wit and her kitchen table wisdom. So we're very happy to have you in Ageless Wisdom. And her incessant need to go outside and play. Today she enjoys teaching herbs from the ground up where she is called, and you can find her, and this will also be in the comments below, EagleSong gardener-gardener.com.
The dash is so important. If you go to the cemetery, there's the date 1922 2010.
Yes.
And that tells when someone's born and when someone dies, but it's the dash that
Yes.
really holds their life.
So I have so many questions. I really, we've had, a little bit of time before this. We started to get to know a little bit about each other. We ended up our conversation talking about pears. But I really have this desire to know what is most alive in you at this moment. You've told me a little of your past, but after all these stories, what do you feel like is most alive right now?
Well, I would say what's most alive in me right now is motherline medicine. I am totally intrigued with this idea that it's not an idea, really. It's a real thing, and
Yes.
it's the way that the information travels through human beings through our DNA and the mitochondria. That's alive in me right now because it just made a lot of the pieces of the puzzle of my life fit together so beautifully.
Mm. Tell me more about motherline medicine.
Well, for me, I mean, it's going to be different for every woman in a sense
Mm.
because
Mhm.
our lineages go back into different ways. But the thing that's consistent through all women is the mitochondria, which only women can pass to their heirs.
Mm.
And so our children receive their spark of life from the mother line.
Yes.
And so, as a gardener, a lifelong gardener and a lifelong learner, and an adventurer and explorer, I realized that I came to herbs differently than many people. I wasn't really interested in their constituents or that aspect of herbalism or plant study. I guess I would call myself sort of an amateur botanist, and more even an adventurer. So I would follow the call of different plants that were alive in me for reasons I couldn't understand.
Mm.
And so,
What's an
uh,
example? Can you give me
yeah,
an
one
example?
example would be I would bring home, if you go to plant sales in whatever village you live in, there's always people at the library or the senior citizens or different people put on plant sales every year, different horticulture groups.
Mhm.
And it's really a place where people can exchange the exciting plants or the plants that there's just too darn much of. They can get them out into the world. And I always would come home with bluebells. And people would say, "Why are you bringing those here?" Because there's they're just so easy to get. It's why do you get them? And it's, I don't know why I get them. And then when I took my first trip to England, and I realized bluebells are the understory in the wood of England, different woods of England, bluebells and different little plants are in that understory. And all my relations back as far as I know were gardening. And so my grandmother came to America from England in 1904, and I started to put the pieces together and was like, oh my gosh, all the plants that grow in the hedgerows of England are the plants that are in my herbal repertoire in my life today, because there was this knowing in me about these plants that wasn't from learning out of a book. It wasn't from listening to other people. It was something that was coming up in me that was really fascinating and interesting. And so I considered those tracks that I would follow to see where those calls, you could say, were coming from.
And that's very matronine medicine, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, mother
very
line. I call mother
maternal.
line.
Mother
It's
line.
moving
Yes,
fast. Mother
sorry.
line medicine. Mother line is so easy. People know mother. Mother's a word we all recognize, and I love that.
Is I'm mixed between Portuguese, Spanish, and English at the moment. So I think I was just,
I love it.
mixed up in a cloud. Um,
Exactly right. Totally.
yes.
Yeah.
So okay.
And
Um,
and so the one other herb
Motherline.
was
Mhm. Oh yes.
asparagus. My grandmother really liked
Mm.
asparagus, but all we had was canned asparagus, which isn't that very tasty. At least wasn't to me as a child. We'd have supper with my grandparents, and she would serve that asparagus, and I thought it was the worst thing. She happened to be born in a village, Hawthorn, England, that was the asparagus capital of the British Isles,
Oh wow.
and it was the only thing that she
Mm.
really brought
Kept.
with her
Yeah.
that I could actually reflect on later, a long time after she died. It was like, oh, that's why grandma loved asparagus.
Mm.
She never went back. And asparagus is one of the herbs that I use in my repertoire because it's just a juicy herb. Every woman should know.
Yeah. What is asparagus? What are the benefits of
Well,
asparagus?
you see, this is such a Western way of thinking. We can't just
Yes.
enjoy a plant because of its nature and the sovereignty of itself. We always have to have this defining thing about what's it good for. Well, I went 30 years on a trek with hawthorns just to find out what she's good for. And honestly, what I found out was so awesome. I encourage anyone to try it. But asparagus is used around the world, and most of the plants I use in my repertoire are also used around the world. They're very common plants. They're highly regarded in the culture that they come from, and generally, first off, as food.
Mm.
And then, secondarily, as something that actually affects the body in some way. So, nourishing, deep nourishment.
Thank you
And
for that.
asparagus
I
is,
it's so important that that lesson that to that the herbs themselves are food, and that the
not
point
all of
is to nourish.
it.
Um,
Yes, then that's still about people. Like my first question when I go out into
mm,
the world of plants now is not what are they good for in relationship to me,
mm,
but what do they do in the place where they live? This is to me what is ageless wisdom is
mm,
when you go into nature, you're not looking for something to take. You're looking for what is going on there. What's the story of this place? Who lives in this place? What's the tribe here? How do they relate to each other? This is an expanded way of learning about our world and the plants that inhabit it. And then all of a sudden, there's a place for us in that big world. And it shifts from going to get something. We, we actually end up there because we're bringing something to it in the
mm,
same way that they're giving something to us, we're also giving something to them. And the biggest thing that we're giving is acknowledgement.
mm,
We see you, we acknowledge you. We want to learn more about you. We want to understand what it is that you're doing in this place where you live and how can we support you in that. And we would like to take a wee bit of you back with ourselves, with us
mm,
to do something, to eat, to use as medicine, whatever we have in mind. But it's always a reciprocity with a plant that's not necessarily economic. It can be, but that's not our primary goal. And that's where people often start. Or they're going to cure, fix, or save something. And that certainly causes a lot of trouble in the world, although there are lots of things that we would like to cure, fix, and save. So we have to,
yes.
the plants have helped me to learn how to be more aware of the world I live in as it is, not as I want it to be. I think that's what I'd say plants have one of the gifts they've given me, and they've given me many. I've had incredible mentors in the plant world, in the human world of humans. I've had really excellent mentors to help me gain a greater understanding, not
Mm,
just of myself, but of this amazing, what I call the starship hurtling through space and time. That one day I was flying to teach somewhere, and I'm at 40,000 feet, and I looked down at the earth, and I was just struck by the thought that, oh my gosh, this is the starship. We're on it. And we're hurtling through space and time. And now that we've got this whole idea of quantum reality, that space and time is bigger than any of us had ever imagined. And then I realized, oh my goodness, we are not the passengers, we're the crew. And my next question is, what's my job? As a crew member on the Starship Earth, what am I here to do?
what is it? Tell us.
Sometimes it's just be here. I mean, that's where you have to start,
That is the question, right?
right?
What are we, what is our
So for me, it's like to be here means I have to actually get my feet on the ground and look around at what's going on. And as a lifelong gardener, I was inspired by nature because I said, nature, I have never seen her go out with a shovel. She doesn't go out there and dig things up and turn the ground over, and yet she creates this amazing garden. I want to do it more like nature. So I've spent my life trying to figure out how can I garden without disturbing the earth? And of course, the earth doesn't dig deep. She uppens, she adds to, she puts things on top, dropping out of trees, dropping from animals flying over. All that just keeps building into, takes 1,000 years to build 1 inch of topsoil.
hmm,
And it's all because it keeps getting reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced down to its simplest um, elements.
decomposed? Yeah.
Yeah, it decomposes into its simplest
Mhm.
elements. And so those are things that have really helped me fall into this ageless, timeless world. It just helped me to expand my understanding of time. And now, of course, we can compost, actively compost, and we can make an inch of topsoil a lot faster. And so there's a tremendous amount we can do to what I call generative, be generative gardeners. And I love that
Regenerative.
word. It's because we are generative people,
Is
especially
it
women.
is it generative or regenerative?
Well, that's thank you for asking, because I think from some perspectives, regenerate again makes you the person who's going to do something, that they're fixing something.
Okay.
I don't I don't buy into that terminology. I prefer the word generative because generative to me is co-creation.
Yes.
It's co-creating with the creation, and that
Well,
makes me part of creation. And as a woman, that's how I feel. So mother line medicine comes through the woman's the woman line. Our DNA carries the mitochondria, which we pass to both our children, males and females, and everywhere in between. And so, but that's the little activator that gets the energy of life to go. So women are generative, and I'm speaking in terms of a mother line uh, tradition. And I don't want to regenerate. I want to generate. I want to create. I want to be a
I think you're right. I think
co-creator.
it is generative. And isn't it true that all living things have this mitochondria?
I believe so.
So, I mean, it is this ageless wisdom. I love that if there's mitochondria in us that create us and give us our, life sustaining,
Mm-hmm.
and carries with us our lineage, but then everything around us also. So are the mitochondria speaking on that level?
Okay, so I'm new to this. I'm not really adept at it. It's like I like to think of myself as an amateur at everything, because it keeps it in an exciting place. Remember, beginner's mind.
Yes.
And so this is, and not only am I new to it, the whole idea, of these insy bitsy teeny weeny things that we couldn't see. I don't know when they developed the microscopes that could see things that were smaller than we could see up to that point, but it
Yes.
changed the world. So
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. All I know is that that mitochondria is the powerhouse of really of the planet, and we as human beings can actually photosynthesize because there's lots of mitochondria in the eyes. So when you're outside and the sunlight is coming and you're getting full spectrum light, it does affect your well-being.
Mm.
So go outside and play, one of my axioms of life. I actually have shifted that. One time I was in Costa Rica swimming in the ocean, and I realized I'm in her. And it's like it's not like telling people to go outside. It's come outside and play. Come out of wherever you're at and open yourself up to the hugeness of our universe, because we see it so differently now than we ever had before. And we're just on the cusp of this new way of seeing ourselves, our universe, our planet. Um, it's pretty darn exciting. That's all I can say. And so I want as much time as I can have to stay excited, stay participating, and there just isn't room for. Well, that's not true. I'm really good at going slow. That's why I have a snail on my hat. It's to tell people that I actually go slow, and
It's
I really
interesting.
like that.
One question that I had written
Oh,
here was if you were just to speak to your descendants, what would you say? What wisdom
oh,
would you offer? And you were talking about the snail, and it made me think of this question, like what
I would remind them to that there's I call it the 5 F's: for a really full and satisfying life, pay attention to the 5 F's. And the first one's failure. Let yourself fail. Learn how to live with failure in a way that doesn't decimate you, but ignites your curiosity. How many times did Edison have to figure out, make a light bulb before he got one that worked?
Oh my God, my son in his math homework. I wish I could just tell him the first F right now.
Right. Okay, so that's F number one. F number two is family. Attend to your family, and however that looks for each person, but attend to them. And I find friends are pretty important as well. We need friends in our life to actually to reflect back to us who we are. I think that's one of the things that friendship does for us. And food, of course, food is
can't.
To me, it's like the main part of life. How we create food, how we grow our food, how we eat our food, how we take it into ourselves, are all incredible places to connect ourselves to where we are and what's going on around us. So food, and I like to think of food in the form of feasting. I love it that all the holidays used to be called feast days. Wherever we lost that tradition,
festival,
festivals, feast days.
Mm-hmm.
That these are what makes life holy, and holy is about being whole. WHOLE, holy.
Yeah.
And so, really bringing ourselves back into that place where we're a part of the bigness of what's all around us, and it holds us. And so that's why I tell my kids and my grandchildren is to really think about your place in this big, amazing creation, and how you're going to tend yourself and the creation. So, food, family, friends,
feasting.
Well, I'm not sure. I think that's with food, family, friends. Oh, this is the one that we really need to look at now, because we really need to
failure
deal with it. Failure is the other one. Food, family, friends, failure. But the fifth one is fire.
What is it?
Fire.
Fire.
Our world is appearing to be on fire.
There's actually fires in Portugal now. Yes.
Exactly. And so what we need to attend to is thinking about our relationship with fire, how inflammation or fire regenerates, if we want to use that word, how it actually, like, what's the function of fire in our life? And what way do we use fire to heat our homes, to cook our food? And how could we shift that use or create different ways of heating and cooking and moving ourselves around? All those things are fire. And so coming to a relationship with fire is important. And I like cooking with fire. I like to cook outside on fire. I like to have a wood stove in my house. In the times that I've done it, I've really enjoyed fire, and learning about all the different aspects of fire has really enriched my life. So those 5 things, if we get a handle on how those things can enrich our life and how we can stay connected, I think that that's a good way to go.
I love this. I'm amazed that fire reached your 5 F's. It is so important in and inflammation and is
yeah
is a reality in many people's lives.
One of the
all around us.
Causes of any disease, the body being inflamed.
Yes.
And so I think we've been neglectful of our tending the fire of our life. And it's say we can say failure. We were experience a failure of tending the fire of life itself. And because failure is one of the 5 F's, it's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, cool, now we can learn something new. How can we take those all 5 things and bring it together in a way of life? Because I think right at the moment, we're actually in the process of generatively creating a culture that can live with all the new things we are learning at this moment and still maintain our integrity as in a relationship with this planet.
You believe this is possible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're in you're an inspiration to me because I don't know, maybe I'm part of the problem by having fear and of what's happening around us. I mean, you see the fires, you see
Oh,
the wars, you see
yeah,
the
absolutely.
change in the way we're communicating with each other. There's more separation, community is dissolving around us.
But they're
Um,
dissolving, in my opinion, because we're in the midst of creating something new, and the old thing has to go away. But it never leaves really fast. I mean, I'm actually a oh gosh, I don't know what to say. I'm a like I like to watch things. So I had a hazelnut tree in the back of our place here, and last year we were doing a herb walk around the croft, and a gentleman asked if that tree was dying, and I said, "Oh yes, yes it is dying. It's been dying for the last 25 years, and we've been watching it die." Which seems horrific in a way. But basically, as the tree died, it had a blight. It kept trying, it kept sending up shoots and trying to live. But big parts of the tree totally gave way to mosses and lichens and turkey tail mushrooms. And so, in
ooh,
its dying, it was creating habitat for everything that was living. And this year, finally, 25 years later, the tree actually expired.
mm,
And so now the wood is sort of hollow because the
inside.
yeah the fungus and the oh I can't think of the word right off. But anyway, the I want to say mitochondria always, but it's not. It's the mycelium. The
Mm,
mycelium, its job is to digest the lignaceous part of the wood. So the lignaceous is the hard part of wood. And mycelium's job in these trees, and different mushrooms do it different ways, they basically transform that wood into something soft and squishy and water absorbent. So that's
right.
what the tree is now. And I had this great idea. Well, now we can just take the tree down. And I've had to fight to keep that tree going all these years because everyone else wanted to take it down. And when I said, "Oh, let's take the tree down," it was like, "No, we're going to let it fall of its own accord." The birds are making nests in it
Oh,
now. The bugs come, and the lichen and the mosses are still there. But it was watching the degeneration of this tree and the generative quality of all that she was giving to the life that was coming later.
that's ageless wisdom. Yes.
And that is the beauty of being a gardener.
Mm,
The world doesn't have much high regard for gardeners anymore. And I just would love to see much more, many more gardeners in our world. So my objective. So what am I alive? What's alive in me?
yes. What's
Growing
alive?
gardeners, growing gardeners who can garden, who really understand how all of this cycle of life works, because there's no end to it. It's the everlasting feast.
Yes. It's one of the
and
fives.
and that's the generative cycle that I want to continue to be in, and to encourage other people to be able to see it so that they can actually jump. It's like jumping rope, you got to kind of get the feel, and then you got it, and then you just start jumping. And I
And
think that's
how would someone, and hopefully many people listening, how would they find you to learn how to garden and what
Well, actually, there's two ways.
Mhm.
We teach here at the Croft where I live, and people can sign up for apprenticeships or take classes here. And we also have an online community which we call Herbwise Women, for herb ally curious women. It's
Okay.
it's it's
Mhm.
like I really want people to become allies with plants, to really connect with them on levels that go deeper than just the surface. And by doing that through an apprenticeship, or if you live at a distance, we have Herbwise Women, which is an online community. So we teach online and we teach in person. And so those are ways. So, and to find out all about that, eaglesong-gardener.com
The
will get you
dash
to
is
a
very
portal that
important.
takes you different. Yeah, the dash is very important.
Yeah.
Your whole life is wrapped up in that dash.
So thank you for, telling us how to get to you. I guess the last question, this might roll into a few other questions, but what is your reflection when you think, who am I?
Mm.
Who am I? What is that?
I love that question. Who am I? Who am I? I'm so many things. I really finally see I am a jewel with many facets. I'm a mother. I'm now a grandmother. I'm a gardener. I'm a really curious, adventurous woman. I am a beginner. I love being an amateur at everything so that I can always hold that place for the beginner's mind in my heart. And who am I? I am actually, because I don't know if other people have it like this, but women I've talked to do, and other people I'm sure, they don't really notice their out. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of attention to the outside of them, but I actually don't think about it much. I think more about the inside of me. And so it doesn't seem to change that much. I have to get adjusted to my outside of me. Like I'm 73 now, and I have to adjust to the fact that I can't do things like I did when I was 43. And I sometimes have to take a step back and say,
Mm,
wait, and yet I also know there are lots of things I can do to help myself get as much energy and activity in my life as I can, because I'm having such a good ride. I don't want it to quit to end.
yeah. Don't
And
stop
so, I
moving.
mean,
Definitely don't
so the
stop
little
moving.
things don't trouble me so much. I mean, I've had a typical
Mhm.
fall. I've totaled my truck this morning. The propane tank regulator went out. Like all that stuff doesn't bother me anymore. The basement might flood, or even I live in a valley that floods all the time. And now we know how to live with those things. And I realize that's the beauty of having a long life, is you've seen so many things. Not much is so unbearable anymore.
Mhm.
So who am I? I am this thread. And now that thread, what I call the red thread, I am just one more bead on the necklace of the red thread of the mother line. And so I'm not that important, and yet while I'm here, I'm as important as I can be. And so that is to me the beauty of falling into timeless wisdom, or ageless, like you say, ageless wisdom.
Thank you. That is so important. I think, when I stop and reflect, who am I? I have so many hats that I wear as well. I'm a mother, and, I've got a business, and I've got land to take care of. And, I've got all these different, but when I remove all of those facets, I really just feel that silence that you felt when the two tides came together.
It stopped. The tide stopped.
Yeah, it stopped. And that moment of silence
Yes.
is what I try to achieve, is just a flow of silence. Who am I? And it's
In
impossible
place.
when you're a mother of three young kids. I'm in the perfect position to test um
Right. And so
that.
so you
Who
find
am
moments
I?
of it. You find moments of it as a mom.
Uh-huh.
who has 3 young kids and a business, running a business and all of it. And yet you know that there is this river that runs deep, and you know
Yes.
the feeling of it when you are in it. And that's what keeps me going, is knowing that it's not all the time. And yet as I get older, it's more and more and more.
Mm.
But also there's other things that are calling for us to attend as we're young. And as we get older, we get, that's why we want a long life, so we can get to the point where we can really ruminate on all that beauty and pain, and the story of who we are in this time. I kind of have seen in different rituals I participated in of people coming up and going down and coming up and going down, and it's like we're just a lineage of on this planet, that we're just part of it. We're a speck of dust. Sometimes we're above ground, sometimes we're below ground, back above ground, below ground. You know, your mitochondria isn't picky. She just like, we've got a lot of ancestors back there that we don't know and we never will know. And yet this
And
life comes through us.
and who are we becoming? I mean, if we
Mm.
have all this, if we
Mm-hmm.
carry all this lineage and all this mother line, who are we becoming? We
Well, I
change.
think we're here to actually, when I was a young woman, I wanted to be a shapeshifter. That was kind of the coolest thing
Ooh.
when I was young. And now I realize that we're the shift shapers. We're
Mm.
in a huge shift in time and space on the planet and consciousness. And so I think that the elder women are the best place to go for information about shifting, because we've had to shift so much to get to where we are, and we know things that are important. And that's
What
why
what
the
what
book
is
is
this
rich.
shift? What is this shift that you're
Well, just
feeling in
think, I mean,
consciousness?
when people didn't even, fire was an accidental thing. Once they were able to catch fire and actually create fire when they wanted it, then basically there was a huge leap in the way that people were on the planet. It gave them more nourishment. They got bigger, they got smarter, and so they were able to make a leap forward. Then grain cultivation came. Cultivating grain was another huge leap for humankind, in that now we could figure out how to design and build enormous things. We could have time to learn how to write and keep track of things. And so these are major timeline shifts in humanity. The Industrial Revolution was the big one. It really rearranged the entire planet and was
Yes.
followed by a lot of um, craziness. The quantum shift, where we are now, our deeper or greater or wider, broader understanding of the quantum quality of the world we live in, is bringing about tremendous shifts at a speed like we've never seen before. And I,
Is
like
this
my snail, I want to go slow, but I can see that there's this it's almost a feeling of urgency. And I actually I'm pretty good at getting out of that urgency, because I'm the kind of person who waited 20 years. I have to show you my this is what's on for me right now. This is a cross between a hawthorn and a mountain ash. This is
wait,
the
hold,
first.
wait, hang on. I just want to get, wow.
Can you see it?
Oh my
So
goodness.
this has just come
Oh,
ready for harvesting here at
beautiful.
Ravencroft. And so the beauty of it is that this is a cross between two really different trees in different genuses, but the same family. They're both in the apple rose family. But it took 20 years for the tree to bear fruit after I planted it. I've lived 33 years in my croft now, and it was like, who has the patience nowadays to wait 33 years? Imagine if we were communicating with each other 100 years ago. I would send you a letter. You might not get it for 6 months.
Yes.
It's a really different relationship with time. And so, unless we listen to elders who know a different time, youngsters, they don't know that you can go slow. And so that's why we have to maintain intergenerational communities, that the generations mix and oftentimes work together. And so the places that I've seen where that works really well are places where people have traditional practices that are around festive occasions and feasting and
Yeah, I mean,
holidays, and the
we're
whole of the village shows up.
we're Jewish, and
Yeah,
so we have these festivals, and we go on Friday nights or Saturday mornings every week, and we see the same people, and we eat together at the same table. We break the
yeah,
bread, we say the blessings over the wine. There's always singing and clapping and banging of tables
I
and
want to come see.
elders on the couch. Like, I walked out
Right.
on Saturday, and this older man was sitting with my son and two of his friends, and I walked over and I listened to the conversation. He's talking about how you should respect your parents, and I was just, yes, I mean,
Right.
it was just.
It's great for them to hear it from other
And
people. You
all
can't
the
tell
my
them
little
that.
girls running, she's under the
Yeah,
table, and the rabbi is just like lifting up saying, Malka, come out from under the table. And it's just,
yeah.
community is so important, I think.
And and I think community that's built around the table is definitely where I'm headed and where the people I love congregate. And we don't I don't have a
I
long
would love
tradition.
to be at your table. I would
we,
love it.
on Herbwise Women, we actually do interviews, a small podcast called Coming to the Table.
Oh,
And that's the
that
name of our podcast.
that's
and
so.
and so we're doing the same thing halfway around the world, and we have very different lineage traditions, but we all know the same things. Those 5 F's are really important in
Mm.
our lives, and what brings us a rich and meaningful life. And so when we have that, then we can watch the speed going on around us, and still we're okay. So I actually once, women have always tried to figure out what's the word, because they say history and it's his story, and they wanted a
Oh,
word.
her
and
story.
and always people are looking for new words. And I was just talking with a friend one day, and I realized the woman's word isn't her story. That's kind of stupid, and it's hard to say. Well, stupid is objective, of course, subjective. But what I realized is we have had the word all along. We just didn't notice it. Heritage.
Mm.
History is what you read about in the books. And I think heritage is what helped people get through history.
Yes.
So her heritage, the heritage of
Yes.
creativity, of generative living, this is the place that I think that we're going to find our greatest joy.
Thank you so much. I love that your last word was joy. I think your playfulness and just the essence of joy is so important. It's another topic, but finding more joy in life. And Susan Weed, when I interviewed her, she mentioned pronoia instead of
Right. That is so good.
paranoia. And I love this idea of being joyful, and I mean, not being afraid of the shadow or the dark, but bringing more joy um to the table.
Yes.
um but is there any last thing that you would like to share with all of the listeners or watchers of this video?
Oh, wow. One last thing. Hmm. Our world appears on the surface to be really in dire straits, but I really invite people to find that place, that essence, and it lives in all of us, and find it and come outside and play. Nature's always here. Nature's always willing to wrap her arms around anyone who's willing to receive them. And that in that comes a deep and lasting joy that the ups and downs of life aren't so difficult anymore. They are challenging for sure, but when you've got that sense of purpose and sense of place, then that joy grows.
Mm.
So that's, I guess we'll leave it on joy.
Thank
Just
you.
our yards.
Yeah. Yes, just our yards. Joy.
Yeah,
There you
small
go.
bites, little
Yes.
bits. Every little bit you do that brings you more joy in your life is enriching the world.
Yes.
The best rebellious act you can do is be happy.
Yeah.
And you won't hurt anyone in the effort of it.
No, for sure not. Well,
So
thank
I
you
think that's
so,
it.
so much.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, Shoshana. It's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it. Looking forward to hearing more about pears.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about. I hope to steal a few more moments of your time. But thank you so much. And I hope to check back in with you maybe a few years from now and see how time has evolved. Because as you
Sounds good.
say, we're in a change.
Yeah, you'll see what we're generating down the road.
Yes, for sure we will generate. Thank you so much.
All right.